This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains mention of Scream, Charmed, Serpent and Dove, ACOMAF, and the Priory of the Orange Tree. There's also discussions surrounding suicide, sexual assault, mental health, sex work, racism, bullying, and eating disorders.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I am Laura Marie.
And I am Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing one of the best, I feel, movies to come out of the 90s and a perfect movie for spooky season. We are talking about the original 1996, The Craft.
What a cult class. I have not watched this movie in at least 10 years. So it was really, there were things that I forgot. There were things that I just go, this is so problematic. But that's stuff that we've also discussed on previous things, to just go back to the things that you enjoyed. And even if you still enjoy it, like recognizing that it's problematic is just, you know, it should be an issue. How certain things get passed in Hollywood, even today, I'm still very confused.
Oh, the 90s. It was a different time. The 90s. It was a different time. It was a fantastic time for fashion. That's all I could think of the whole time watching this movie was, oh my God, I want to wear all of this.
Right. And, you know, you know, what's kind of great about it is a lot of that fashion you're seeing now. It was super 90s. It was so great. And maybe because of a resurgence in 90s fashion now and like the early aughts, that it didn't feel dated. I mean, the dialogue was absolutely dated, but the fashion was not.
The fashion was not. And interestingly enough, except for, I think, maybe one or two instances, the special effects were not dated either. And that's because I did the research on this. I did the research, and everyone will be surprised to learn I did not go to Reddit.
I'm so sad. Now I want to know if there's a Reddit page.
I'm sure there's Reddit about this. I didn't, though. I did like the article research, and one of the things that I learned was the reason that so many of the effects look good is because a lot of it is practical effects, especially all of the bugs and the snakes and everything. Those are all like real.
Right.
And so the only part that doesn't really hold up is when Nancy's hands turn into snakes, because that's like such clear, like 90s CGI. But it's just, it's good. It's good. So I have watched this a few times. Blair, one of my friends, someone that you know, watched this the past couple years, and she was like, oh my God, has Laura seen The Craft? And Sam was like, yes, Laura has seen The Craft. It's like that I was there when it was written type situation. Because I saw this movie when I was way too young. Like, at what age did you see this?
I definitely didn't see it till middle school, but I was in elementary school in 96. That's when the movie came out. So I was looking at the date, and I go, okay, there's no way that I saw this. And, you know, it's kind of funny. I saw it, I think, this and Scream. It was one of those sleepovers, you know, the middle school sleepovers, and I was the new girl. Flash forward to, I was the new girl that was like, I fell asleep early. I was picked on. I was harassed. I was bullied. It was super fun. We loved middle school. So this is one of the movies that I think that they played. So maybe that's probably another reason why I haven't watched it since. There's a lot to be said here. You did a lot of research. I just can't wait to like go get into it further.
Yeah, I did the research, and the research I will kind of like sprinkle in, I think, as we go, and then I will link everything in the show notes so everybody can read what I read. But okay, The Craft.
Let's set the premise.
Man, that 90s opening with the like yellow font of the craft is just so like mwah.
I mean, anytime you see Columbia Pictures too, I feel like you're automatically transported back to the 90s. From the openings, from the opening credits, you're still in like Columbia Pictures. This is the producer. Here are the talent that's in. I mean, every single person who was a big deal in the 90s felt like they were in this movie.
Well, yeah. So if you go through, we have Skeet.
Oh, Daddy Skeet.
Daddy Skeet. Skeet. Ooh. Brecken, who we were talking about earlier. And then we have Robin. And then we have, I butcher her name every time.
The girl who plays Rochelle?
No, Nancy.
Oh, Fairuza Balk.
Fairuza. Yeah. I confuse it. I call her Famika. But okay. Fairuza. And then.
Nev.
Yeah, Nev. Right? Like, oh my God. Queen Nev. This is before Scream.
Mm-hmm.
Like, crazy.
And I think, I can't remember because I was definitely too young to watch this. There was a show on Fox called Party of Five. Yeah. She was on that show. I just don't remember when it came out. But like, this was part of her Hollywood it girl.
Which is just so like this movie, But like this, I was reading some interviews and this was like a mainstream like Hollywood hit. Like this was a hit. This kicked off like a little like witchy kind of like renaissance because like Sabrina and then Charmed came out 2 years later and then they share the theme song. Right. And they did that on purpose so that they could like kind of tie it together, and it's tied together in my head. That song is witches in my head.
Absolutely. And I remember I had turned my head away from the screen when that part came up. And I immediately go, because I hadn't been watching, I just turned my head for a second. And then I heard the Charmed theme song and I go, did I stop watching the movie? I thought something reset and I switched over to Charmed. Yeah. Which original Charmed, I haven't watched the reboot, so I don't know if they're using the same theme song. But damn. Like, yeah. All the witchy feels.
All the witchy feels right in my heart. So the craft. This house that Sarah lives in is responsible for my like wildly outlandish like dream house dreams.
It's very, I mean, it's old. I say old Hollywood. It's very LA. It's very Hollywood. It's because in the original 90210, they had the same style house with the terracotta and the stuck. I mean, it's beautiful. A lot can be said about LA, but they do architecture very well. Like traditional architecture, not like the avant-garde Art Deco stuff.
I just love it. I love it so much. So the house obviously was very formative. And Sarah... Obviously, I wanted to be Sarah, but more specifically, I wanted Sarah's hair. Really? Sarah's hair, every hairstyle she has, I tried, like, on my own hair, right? But why couldn't I achieve this? Well, it's because it's a wig. She wears a wig throughout the whole movie because she shaved her head for Empire Records.
Oh, I haven't seen that, so I didn't know. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. I had no idea. There was a scene in this movie, one of many, where she's doing the hair color, like
the glamour, the
glamour transition and everything. And that's when I go, okay, that hair not only was like the CGI for the coloring bad, but the wig was bad. That I knew was a wig. I think initially at the beginning of the movie, I didn't think it was. There's a lot of volume, but that's also the 90s.
It's also the 90s. And it's also very, like, PC. Like, right? It's very PC. And she has those little barrettes that keep it up. I mean, I tried for hours, and I could never achieve it. But learning as an adult that it was a wig makes me feel better about myself.
Well, I feel like that's the case with a lot of things, learning as an adult. Because, you hear about, I can never picture that person as this, that, the other thing when they're in acting roles, or how are they consistent with their hair in every single, because especially if they have like multiple days and multiple weeks of shooting, it wasn't until I was an adult till I realized that most people are wearing wigs, so they're not even damaging their hair for the most part.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's just like, ugh. But all of Sarah's out, like all of it. Okay. So I have pages of notes.
I'm so excited.
So we have the snake man right away. Like, snakes are reoccurring in this movie a lot. We have him right away. This is set in like a private Catholic school, which
Did it bring you back?
It did. It brought me back, but also made me just like so jealous because like who is enforcing this dress code? There's just like tits
the graphic
out,
tees,
short
no
skirts.
bra.
Yeah, like I mean, I love it. And then like the tights and the boots, like we got written up if your fingertips went past. Yeah, you know,
everything had to be at least fingertip length. I hated the ones where, like, there was one where it goes, you know, it can't be more than 2 inches above your knee. 2 inches is nothing. What do they make for girls? And this is true even now. If you even like go to like a toddler section, where like the girls' shorts are like really teeny tiny. Like, why are girls' toddler shorts that short? But you're going to try, you know, it was frustrating. It's still, but that being said, I was also the girl who, as I got older, because my brother was in school with me too, and you know, it's a white polo. I'd start wearing his polos because they were getting a little fitted and snug, and I thought I was hot shit for a hot second. That, clearly I've been humbled since.
You know, Catholic school does all the things to you. Something that I thought was just like so out of left field is that Nancy has a noose in her locker. Like
what
right
the
off.
Fuck was that?
I was like, what is this?
What
it's
is
like
happening?
And it's black, and she's like hanging off of it.
She's swinging from it. Like right before. Did you have lockers in high school? We didn't.
Yeah,
oh,
we had like double like. So, like, half lockers.
Okay, you had, like, the upper and the lower.
Yeah, and I always drop my books on Amanda's head, and I feel so bad about it. To this day, I still have stress dreams about it. Amanda, if you're listening, I'm sorry. So, the pencil thing that Sarah does in class, I cannot tell you how many times I've tried to do this. 600 million, thousand, billion times. I don't know.
You know what? I was watching it really intently to see if I could see fishing line or something. So I guess that's part of the practical magic effect that you were saying.
Yeah.
They must have done.
Yeah, because, like, you can't tell. And I love the detail on the pencil, the bite marks on the pencil. And then
in like the slow turning,
and you can like kind of hear it, kind of like
the graphite into right.
Yeah, it's just good. It's just like a really good like little kind of detail that's in there. I tried to do that so many times, I can't do it. The slut shaming starts right away. The slut shaming with Chris
and Nancy's character,
yeah.
And it wasn't stay away from them. She's a major slut. That one right there, she's a major slut. Right off the bat. What?
But what is he goes, not that I would like know or whatever from like experience or whatever, but she's a huge slut. And the other one has burn scars. Not that I know, but like I haven't seen it, but like my friends have. It's like such a dickhead.
Such a dick.
Oh my God.
And then like, but you know, you should really come and watch me play
football.
That was so...
Are you kidding? But then he also like calls them like the bitches of Eastwick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's immediately like degrading them and like you know calling them names.
Yeah, because they all turned him down, and he's like one of those asshole men who just shames women and starts those rumors. You know, where he's like, they're terrible people, they're whores, blah, 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 the slut shaming. And then because they didn't put out for him, he goes like, that was the worst lay, blah, blah, blah. And I hate that too, because, you know, I saw something where on social media where somebody was, you know, it was like one of those like women supporting women things. And it goes, you know what? Guys are going to say whatever they want anyway. So you might as well, you know, and all women do is like fight for our own honor because it's the truth. And all I could think of, but like to combat that, somebody suggested just go with it and say, yeah, and it was awful and it was small and God help me if I have to, like, anybody has to go through that ever again. You know, like, fight fire with fire, you know. Or,
flip
like,
the narrative.
you know, and that's what I was thinking as I was watching this, because she was, like, straight up in denial. Like, why are you saying these random things? And then he got his, like, fucking lackey to be like, oh, he really can't talk to you right now. Fuck you. I just hate men.
Yeah, no, men are the worst.
Yes, I know. Not all men.
Not all men, but. So, as I said, I was doing the research. And in the research, one of the things that they talk about, I say, like, people that write articles, you know, not me, talk about is that in this instance, like right now, in this scene that we're talking about, that happens like kind of right after this, is that Sarah, and this is a trigger warning, content warning, slit her wrists, right? She slit her wrists, and Nancy sees it, and they're like talking about it, and, you know, Nev sees it. I say Nev, Bonnie right. Sees it, and, you know, she tells, you know, she makes her comment about, like, you know, you did it the right way, and
right, they were like really like, oh, you even did it the right, like they were proud of her almost.
But also there was like no judgment though. There wasn't like a shame part of it. Okay. That wasn't there. It was an acceptance and a no judgment kind of thing there. And they were like weirdly kind of like admiring the technique, which is weird. But in the article that I read, it said like this is one of those movies that like it's a no stigma type situation, and that isn't always the case. This movie also passes the Bechdel test. So, I mean, obviously it's female driven.
Does it?
Yeah, it does. It does. They rarely,
because they do say like, look, I told you to stay away from him. I told you he was a bad guy. But their friendship isn't based on like, so, you know, and then there's the one scene when they're like asking for Manon's, like, Sarah was like, I just really want Chris to notice me. And or like, she's like, I know that's pathetic. And everyone's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I do appreciate
that. So it passes that, which I really like. I also really like that store. And that store is cool.
Can you know it was like 1996 because everything she bought was $20.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, okay.
Because that Motherbound book would have been way over $20.
Way.
Yeah. Go to Etsy.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's like $55. So,
at least.
Just okay. So then we get the second kind of the scene with the snake man. And then we get the weird, everybody stares at him and gets hit by a car. And then Sarah gets freaked out, which I understand, because the explanation of Manon is interesting. But, like, here's just another instance where, like, here's a bunch of people that pray to Manon, which, you know, fine, because, you know, I would pray to SJM's Manon because she's amazing.
But I feel like they gave Manon a name, but when they were breaking down, they were saying, you know, Manon isn't God, Manon isn't Satan, Manon is all. It just feels like, you know, when we talk about energy in the universe and putting it out there, that's kind of like how I took Manon being. And even like the magical system, when they were talking about, you know, when you put something out there, you know, like put good energy out there because whatever is done on to someone will be done on to you. And sometimes like threefold. So it reminded me of Serpent and Dove. With that magical system, you can't give out what you can't take without giving. And that kind of things need to be reciprocated for the balance that comes with magic and energy and all that stuff. We're not professionals at all. This is just kind of our takeaways.
That's a good connection. I didn't even make it. But then again, I try to think about Serpent and Dove as little as possible. So
I don't blame you. Oh, God.
So, okay. So Sarah gets freaked out because she does talk about how, like, things like this have been happening her whole life, right? Like
which you find out she didn't have an explanation, which also is the trigger for, like, her, you know, trying to commit suicide.
Right. And yeah. And then she would hallucinate, like, all the snakes and stuff. And, like, that's when they needed to stop. And then that's when she did that. But, oh my gosh. So So Sarah goes on a date with Chris, and this is our second instance of slut shaming. He tells everyone that not only did he and Sarah fuck, but that she was awful. And then she goes to confront him, and he says, like, stop begging. I'm not going to go out with you again. Like, get away from me. Like, really loud, like how guys do. He's such a dick. He's just so awful. But it's also like Skeet, and Skeet is so hot now.
So
It's like I can't believe that I liked him then, because now he's just like, ooh, that man.
I think he's aged. I sent you my reaction video to him. I go, like, I didn't think he was much in The Craft. Definitely in Scream. And even, like, now, please, like, fan myself looking. And he knows it, too. Because, usually I'm like, oh, I hate guys who, like, I'm happy to just, like, berate them to, like, humble them, no matter what I personally think. But he's someone who I go, yes, you have earned that. Please. No humble bragging.
Yeah, no humble brag. Enjoy this. You've worked so hard. You know who's in this is, and I forget her name, but it's Marsha Brady.
That's who I was like, why is she so familiar? The girl who was like a racist piece of shit to Rochelle.
Yeah, that's Marsha Brady. That's like Ben Stiller's ex-wife, right?
Christina Taylor.
I think
I loved them together.
I know. Yeah, she's a racist piece of shit. So she's in there, and then we've got Bonnie with her burn scars, and then we have Nancy. We're kind of going through like our characters' like kind of background stories, and like Nancy's white trash, right? So the article again that I was reading was talking about how this movie does deal with racism in its own way, and it deals with like illness and injury with Bonnie, which is really not something that's been depicted a lot.
Well, also trigger warning that like her stepfather was like sexual, like to me it was sexual, like assaulting her in a way, and he goes like trying to look under her robe when they're in the trailer and everything. For Nancy, and then he goes like, she's like, and even the mother says something, and she goes, you need to stop, you're supposed to be her father. And he's like, good thing I'm not, because it's her stepdad. Like, it's just like the whole thing was just disgusting. But again, to what you said, it's depicting certain things that were absolutely taboo to discuss in the 90s, and still kind of now when we're like taking back the narrative to be saying like, no, we're not going to be shamed because we shouldn't be shamed. The people who are doing like other things should feel shameful. And there was no stigma behind it. So I like that you brought that up, because it is unfortunately, this is a part of life. This is like real life things that are discussed that are stigma free in this movie.
We're at one of my favorite parts in this movie, and it is the bus. It's the bus. I love the bus so much. I love Nancy and the kids' interaction on the bus. It's silent and so perfect. I love the shot of them just sitting in the bus looking straight forward and just perfect in their outfits.
Did it remind you of Sex Education? You love a good bus scene.
I love a good bus scene.
And like, female friendships at this point in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And then, they get off, and the guy's like, be careful of the weirdos. And then Nancy says, we are the weirdos, mister. I mean, that is just iconic. Put it on a poster. Let me hang it up, because that is just everything. So you just mentioned it, and we should talk about it. But a lot of the stuff that I read said that the reason that this movie kind of endures is that it is kind of like a metaphor for like female friendships, right? Like that's kind of why... or not even like a metaphor, but like it just shows us female friendships, and in a way that's really real too, because like you're isolated and lonely in the beginning, and then you're like really tentative in your friendship group, and then you become really great friends, and you kind of feel like you could just like take over the world, and then it just like devolves into chaos, and then you're not friends anymore, right? And
when you have like fallouts of friendships, it's typically like...
It's just like this, and friendships devolve and they turn into like nastiness, and then you aren't friends anymore, and you have to like kind of deal with that, and It's just really wild. So like that is kind of a theme about it that's very real and resonates with people. And also just like female empowerment, right? Like this movie does like kind of a weird thing. And it kind of like, it starts off and it talks about like, yes, take control of your life, female empowerment, use magic, right the wrongs that have been like done to you. You're powerful. Nothing can stop you. But then instead of like blasting female independence and becoming like this whole other movie, it doubles back on itself. And it's like, no, it's all going to come back ×3 and you're all super fucked. Because
based on how they chose
to use
their powers, right?
Yeah. So there's like a moral like lesson in all of this,
which makes sense because like when they're in the crystal shop and they're with kind of like, I guess like that witchy mentor, specifically Sarah, she makes some sort of like, and throughout the whole thing, they all like, you have Bonnie, Nancy, and Rochelle who are all trying to see like, they want to be witches and they're practicing, but they're not natural witches. Whereas you have Sarah, who she's like, this stuff has been happening my whole life. And so it's like, it feels more of like a witch who's connected to the earth organically. And then you find out her mother was a witch and all that. But it just, she even says things to her friends like, you all have changed. Like, you're narcissistic, you're this, you're that, you're all just mean. Like, this isn't how we were friends. And they didn't like hearing that, so they ostracized her. That's what I meant to like say earlier when it comes like to sometimes when you're dissolving, when female friendships are dissolving, it almost seems like it's not like everybody goes their individual ways. It's like one person always seems to be ostracized, and that's when you like start that isolated cycle all over again. And it's like that, like even if you think of Mean Girls is exactly like that. So, and that's not the only example. I mean, you could think of Jawbreaker too. I mean, there's tons of examples out there. But there are examples because that's one thing that it seems dramatic. It seems this, that, the other thing, but it's really not. Like, that's typically how it goes. And then, there's always going to be a queen bee of the group, and then they put everybody against the one girl who, it's just been there, done that. It's an awful feeling. And, that's terrifying that girls have to go through, anybody has to go through this. And now it just doesn't, I was thinking about this movie and, even with the bullying from all aspects, not just like with Sarah and her friend group. At the same time, it's kind of left at school. When you get home, and this is probably like a deeper issue, for like a societal issue, when you go home, it doesn't end at home. Like you have social media and everything is in your face 24/7 now. So you can never escape that.
Well, and the inclusion of magic in this makes it all life and death. When you're a teenager, it all does feel like life and death. So I do appreciate that. Like it kind of just does make it all feel more real.
Because that's your world. Like,
yeah.
When you are that age, like this is what you have going on.
After the bus is the wishes. So the director and like people behind this movie hired like a real like Wiccan like
an occultist kind of thing?
like person to come to make sure that they were being as accurate as possible. And one of the articles that I read, it was an article on witches say like what is and isn't accurate in TV and movies, and they say like in neo-paganism the craft is pretty accurate when it comes to the like rituals and things that they're doing.
I drink of my sisters.
Yeah,
and this is what they're
like the words are changed, but it's all pretty accurate. So, and people say, I guess in the community, this is
and all the articles will be posted in the show notes.
It's a well-liked movie because they did take the time to make sure that it is relatively accurate, for what it is.
Well, because there's a respect there.
Yeah.
And I think when there is a respect for any culture or community that is being portrayed in media, and when, we say like, oh, when that extra effort is there, whereas it should always be there in the first place. Like, you're going to have people say, well, you know what, I appreciate you, taking this effort and not doing it based on assumptions.
Yep. And with the wishes, we get a finger prick. We don't get a hand slice. I appreciate that. I was like, yes, finally. And their wishes. And what are their wishes? Bonnie wants to be beautiful. Nancy doesn't want to be white trash. Rochelle wants people to stop being like racist to her. Like, duh.
But see, and some of the wording though, I want to have the patience for people who do not like have patience for me, kind of thing. So it was really interesting. It seems innocent enough, their wishes. This is kind of like a be careful what you wish for. You got to be really specific.
Yeah. Like a monkey's paw.
Right. So it's just, and also I thought Bonnie's scars were only on her back. Right? Mm-hmm. So they were only on her back. So then she comes to school, like, after, the scars aren't there anymore. Which also, I felt bad for the scientists and all these doctors. Cause
I know. They're going to write all these papers. and they're going to make their career. Yeah.
And they're going to do all these experiments with, like, genome studies and gene therapy, like, for the future, thinking it's going to...
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. I really felt bad for the scientists and the doctors. So the scars were only on her back, and then she goes to school, and everyone's like, ooh, we notice you now. And I go, she was never showing her back at school. So.
And it's Nev. She's gorgeous.
Yeah,
like, have you been blind the whole time? Like,
right.
It's
It
Nev,
was just, I was just so confused. I go, wait. Her back was, if that was her insecurity, and maybe that's what it was, that was her insecurity. So like she wore her insecurity even though nobody else saw it. But I will say I love a slow-mo high school walk down the aisle.
That's the thing. That's the thing. So like the next I don't know, few minutes of this is like a montage that shows like how full in they are in their friendship, the four of them. We have the as you say, the slow-mo walk with the
classic.
Oh, and they're like looking, and the four of them, and
they are you would never know that they weren't the HBICs of that school.
They are just amazing. Everybody's looking at them. Their wishes start to work,
and they're doing all like the montage because I love a female friendship, and I love like they're doing the sleepovers and the girls' nights and the
fun.
I was like, I'm so excited. I get to see you in a couple weeks.
So, God, the sleepovers in that great house that Sarah has too. Okay, so the wishes start to work. So for Rochelle, her bully Laura goes bald. Nancy's gross stepdad dies and leaves them money. Bonnie's scars, as you said, go away. She's beautiful. And Chris, Mr. Ski Ulrich, is completely in love with Sarah, so much so that it has gotten weird. And it has gotten to the point where she is like not really okay with the way that things are going. She's starting to have a little bit of doubts, but before she voices her doubts, they have the sleepover with the glamours and the wigs, which you said. And I bring this up because the 90s were a different time. So I don't know if you picked up on this, but when Nancy goes, do something to me, to Sarah, right? When Sarah's doing the glamour. And Sarah's like, what do you want? And Nancy goes, I don't know, like, a smaller ass.
Yes, I did notice that.
I was just like, oh, times have changed.
She's
my
like a smaller, and and she's tiny in the movie to begin with.
Yeah.
So the fact that she even said like that, I immediately picked up on that.
Yeah. It was just like, oh my gosh.
Nobody would ever say that now.
Nobody. And then we get the invocation. So this invocation, there's a real story about this. So like they did this and they had on the beach and whatever, and they're filming this and they timed out the tides and stuff. But when the girls' arms are up and they're calling the corners, shit went wild. And like the
like
water,
in real life?
in real life, like the water came in and like bats came out of nowhere and like all this
shit.
Like weird stuff kept happening. But when they start calling the corners here, I have chills. But I've noticed something kind of interesting. So the animals that the girls are bringing to the beach. So Rochelle's is a fish, and like she does diving. And then Bonnie's is a butterfly. She's kind of like emerged from her like cocoon. Her like chrysalis, right? Nancy is a snake. And she's like said over and over again how much she likes snakes.
Right.
And then Sarah is a bird.
She's a caged bird.
So I just thought that was very interesting. Like,
I was wondering the significance because I go, okay, they're each bringing a life, essentially. Yeah. That's kind of how, but I didn't connect.
Kind of like represents who they are.
The representation, except the bird. The caged bird like made sense to me, but I didn't know the others.
Yeah,
but how wild the scene after that, because they were calling the corners and you have like dead sharks, like sacrificial sharks.
Yeah, the sharks. Oh my gosh. All the washed up sharks and Nancy walking on the water. Oh my gosh. That
was so fucking cool. I know it's CGI, but there are certain points in this movie where it's like the first initial sleepover with the stiff as a board, light as a feather.
Oh my God. Yes.
I feel like that was when everybody realized, oh, this shit is real.
We can do, we can do it.
And that's where like all the, like, that was the, like the peak of their friendship, like that montage thing.
Have you ever done light as a feather, stiff as a board?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did it ever work?
No,
but it's cool as hell.
I won't, but I still refuse to do a Ouija board. I was told never to touch that shit, and I haven't.
Yeah. It's good. Smart. So in this instance, before they actually call the Guardians, this is when Sarah tells Nancy about the hallucinations and all the bugs that she sees. So like the hail to the Guardians, that whole sequence, I just get chills. So then Sarah has doubts after this, and then she's talking to Chris, and Chris says like,
Is this when they pushed her out and now she's on that second date in the car with Chris?
Yeah, this is the date in the car with Chris. She's like, I just feel, and then there's attempted rape here. Mm-hmm. And it's just so scary. And it shows like, and none of the articles that I read talked about this, but it's like, it's the quote from God, is it
What's the quote?
ACOMAF? Is it ACOMAF? It's if you love something, you can love something too much.
ACOMAF.
Yeah, you can love something too much. It turns like toxic. It turns
right,
evil.
It's ACOMAF.
Yeah, so like that's what this is exactly that. This is like the toxic side of love, because he just wants to like possess her and like never let her go.
And I will appreciate the scene after this where she's obviously scared. She's running away from him. And even though she is on the outs with these girls, she went directly to Rochelle's and they all kind of rallied together.
She's not directly on the outs yet.
That's not the part.
Yeah,
okay.
not.
This is just like things were rocky because she said her opinion.
Things were rocky. Things were rocky when they're driving in the car and all of the lights are turning.
Right.
Yeah. That's this part. So she's like kind of, but not like super.
Okay.
Yeah. That's such a good scene too, right? When Nancy's driving and at the end she's like, you guys, that was kind of close. Like, it's like, oh my gosh.
They make it feel like it's this small town. It's LA. Can we
LA.
stop trying we not act like
they're like, you need a car here? It's like, gosh. So Nancy is there, and Nancy hears about this attempted rape, and Nancy goes off, right? Her walk into that, like up the driveway and into that house is just like so badass. And that dress, like,
she owned everything. And, of course there was like, how you're like, don't do anything. And, Nancy's like, fuck that. There's a party. This is where he's going to be. I'm fucking shit up. Absolutely. Totally here for it. I was reading one of the BuzzFeed articles about this. And, one of the comments goes, what party was this at? Like, any party that I ever attended in high school always had a door, like somebody like security watching the door. What party I never had any. You just walked into a house.
Yeah, like
you heard somebody's parents aren't home. You knew what was happening.
Yeah,
and you
you just go. I don't know. It's wild. So this part of the movie though is the fucked up part, right? So this part.
Oh, I have issues here.
Yeah. Okay. So I keep wanting to call him Skeet. Chris sees Nancy and he immediately thinks of Sarah. So he follows her up into the bedroom. He's like, "Where is Sarah? Where is Sarah?" And Nancy tries to fuck him right there as Nancy because and we get confirmation right there that they have fucked in the past.
Right.
So and that's not really like talked about, but we get that confirmation. It's just like, "Oh, you piece of shit."
Right.
So like she tries again and he like pushes her off and he says like, no, don't touch me, whatever. So then she's on the ground and she has her little like freak out moment and then she glamours herself as Sarah and then she fucks him. That's a crime.
That is my issue. Absolutely. This is like, you know, obviously all the trigger warnings, we'll have it in our show notes.
Yeah.
But it also reminded me of Priory.
Yeah. This is a crime.
Like, as much as we shit on men, you know, but we like what's right is wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
This was not his consent. She was like, he was agreeing to sleep with Sarah, not with Nancy, and she raped him. And I do not think that that's okay.
Yeah. No, it is not okay. Like it's like an eye for an eye, but like that is not okay. This is not the situation for that. Yeah. But then Nancy has a speech and she's like, he's a whore and like he can do like whatever he wants.
But she's also you know, like I understand like the double standard that it comes with men. Like he's saying like he's slut shaming women to women who haven't slept with him, but he's the actual whore. But I also don't like the shaming of sex work all around. Maybe it's just like becoming more aware of like sex work is work, you know, and having respect for people no matter their professions or their careers. But maybe that's where it comes from, and I feel like that's a whole different narrative that's going to take a long time to shift.
Chris does apologize here though, right? He goes, "I'm sorry." And Nancy, I know, right? And Nancy, though, freaks out. She goes, "Oh, he's sorry, you know." And then her...
But I agree with her. He's like, he's sorry now. It's like when you have people, are you really sorry? Or you're sorry you got caught? Or are you sorry because you know, like, shit's about to happen?
Yep. And then, So another article that I read talked about how this is, like, a nice exploration of female rage and how, like women who are powerful are like shamed for being powerful, right?
Right.
So like Nancy in this moment is like taking back everything, right? Like, and she doesn't know like how to process these emotions really. 'Cause like you're 17, they're like teenagers, right? Like they're teenagers. So there's like this overreaction
hormones are wacky.
Here. Yeah.
Hormones are always crazy. Then it's amplified.
She's also like magic crazy. Right. So she freaks out and blows open the doors, and Chris dies. So then we have the binding. The binding Sarah tries to do on Nancy, which is also like so iconic.
I love, you know, I was thinking because she's doing it in her backyard. I wonder if her parents are like peeking out the window and they just see like your daughter putting party ribbon because you see like on the center block.
What the fuck are you doing? You weird ass. Like what?
I'm just like thinking like imagine your mom looking out the kitchen window and like your high school, you know, back in Florida, and like seeing you at the pool, just like
my mom would bang on the window and be like, "Stop being weird. Stop being weird." Yeah, that's what she would do. I'd be like, "God," I'd be like, "I'm trying to do something."
She'd just be like making gestures in the window.
Like you're, oh my god. Okay, so we have the binding. The binding is so great. Like I bind you, Nancy, from doing harm against other people and harm against yourself. Iconic. We have the very like kind of cliche, tropey nightmare where the witches like come through the window and like try to choke Sarah in her dreams.
But you know what I completely forgot about that part is that initially I was like, of course she's having a bad dream. Like, of course this is like a nightmare to her. This is like consuming her life right now. And then when you hear Bonnie go, "How have you been sleeping?" I was like, "Oh, they did it! Like they did it!
They did it! Yeah. Oh my gosh." So then this is the part of the movie where we have the school bathroom confrontation. This is the fallout, right? Like, this is the huge fallout that they have. It's like, you know, when other witches would betray their coven, they would kill them. Stop trying to put, like, spells on me. Like, what are you doing? Like, why do you want out? You can't do this. Like, it's all very awkward. It's all very life and death, and it's all in a high school girl's bathroom.
Oh, I hate the high school girl's bathroom.
It's the setting for, like, nightmares, honestly. Jesus.
I will say, though, I didn't see it as Sarah wanting to leave the coven. I saw it as she just didn't want others to be harmed. And also, like, how special was it that she goes, you know, not to have Nancy do harm unto others or to herself. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that came from a place of, like, her own lived experience where she's like, you know what, I don't want her to rage. I don't want her to cause harm to herself. Like, she could have easily just said, which is what she wound up doing at the end, not to cause harm to others, not to cause harm to others. So that, I don't know if you picked up on that, but I noticed that initially that's what she was still in the coven. She didn't want other people to get hurt, and she didn't want her friends to, like, hurt themselves. And then at the end of the day, she was like, don't hurt other people. Give no fucks what you choose to do with your own life.
Yep. Oh, we love to see it. Okay. So this, from the next part on, is like the like downslide, right? So like we have the like rising action and the crescendo, and this is like the falling action. So this is when things go off the rails. We have the glamour with the plane crash, and then we've got the bugs in the house, man.
That plane crash, you know, we hate dead parent tropes here. Yep. That's awful to put that psychological terror in somebody's mind.
Just so awful. But then we have another confrontation here too. And then we have the confrontation with Nancy and Rochelle and Bonnie, and then they float in her living room, right? Like, how freaking cool is that? So freaking cool. They've got the best shoes. They've got the best clothes. I just want all of these outfits. But then Nancy, they're all fucked up because they're all 17, slits Sarah's wrists. The opposite way, actually. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did notice that.
Yeah, the opposite way. And then Nancy goes like, Sarah, like, you're weak. And Rochelle's like, why doesn't she use magic against us? And she's weak. You know, run to your room, because Nancy's like crazy at this point. And then we get Sarah calls the corners, yeah?
Yeah, she calls the corners while she's laying on the floor.
Yeah, Sarah calls the corners. Her mom, her picture, you know, comes to life, and Sarah calls the corners. Then we get the fight, right? That fight sequence won an MTV Movie Award.
Really?
Yeah, for best fight.
Cool. I didn't know that.
How random, right? Yeah. So, yeah, that fight, I like that fight. Man, 90s is just so fantastic. When she walks out of the mirror, I was just like, hey.
Or I even when, and I like that Nancy's character, she was even confused when she goes, I know Sarah is here, but she's not here. I'm gonna take this butcher knife anyway, just in case, because you know she's still there too. And then she comes like unturns, she's no longer invisible, and kicks her against the mirror. Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. And then Sarah, who has you know, the spirit in her now, is like, you know, he wanted me to give you a message. He's disappointed in how you've been like using stuff. You know, he's basically like, your time is up. He's coming for you. You fucked up
because you fucked up, because it was always about using the elements like in a positive way, and that's not what the energy, like, that's what the energy is. You know, you put the positive energy out, you're supposed to get it back, and that's not what was happening.
And this is the instance where we get the 90s snake hands. It's just so bad, but like the rest of it is so good. she's just Nancy is just such a good, like, her face is so expressive, and like her eyes are so she's just wonderful. Have you seen anything else that she's in? She's wonderful in everything.
Farouja Balk?
Farouja, yeah.
Immediately thought of The Waterboy.
The Waterboy, yeah.
She plays Vicky.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where those are her two profound roles to me. But I know I've seen her in, like, so much other things. She was pivotal in... She was a pivotal part of 90s casting, it seems.
Yeah. My favorite role for her is in Almost Famous.
I never saw Almost Famous.
She's so good in Almost Famous.
That's the one with Kate Hudson, right?
It is, yeah. We should watch that one. That one's a good one. Okay, we're at the, like, end of this. So, like, one of my favorite, like, effects, I get practical effects in this movie is when Sarah and Nancy are fighting, like, on the wall and the wind is blowing and the dresser is coming, right? And Nancy, like, leaps out of the way of the dresser and the dresser smacks into the wall. And Sarah, like, dissolves into the wall, but her clothes are there perfectly. Mm-hmm. I love that. I don't know why I love that. I always found that to be so clever. Like, just, like, a clever little thing that happened that, I don't know. I really love it. And then Nancy, like, takes the like, papers and stuff off of Sarah's outfit and then raises the knife and then the lightning, like, lights her face. It's just good. It's just good. But then that's essentially, like, the end of the movie. So, like, Sarah, like, kicks out and, like, throws her against the mirror and then binds Nancy, as you said. And then Nancy's gone. And then something
Not only is she gone, they place her in, like, a 5150 hold.
Yeah. So according to the article that I read, this was a inaccurate and potentially harmful depiction of mental health institutions.
I do agree with that.
Obviously. Yeah, obviously. Something that I picked up on that I thought was absolutely hysterical was when Bonnie and Rochelle walk up to Sarah, they are wearing the most whack-ass clothes that I have ever seen. Nev is wearing this, like, copper and black, like, satin tuxedo, like, shirt.
Oh, yes. It's like it's all buttoned up. Yeah.
And Rochelle is in this, like, gray wool, like, overcoat situation. It's just, like, it's so funny. They went from, like, peak, like, quote, quote, like, witchiness, right? Like, black and, like, silver everything to, like, these weird clothes now because they don't have power.
Right. Well, and they go, oh, they're like, hey, how are you? And Sarah's like, what do you want?
Like, get fucked. Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes, oh, we were just, like, checking to see if you have your powers. Because we don't. We were just seeing what's up. And she's like, okay. She's like, well, call us. Yeah. How about never? But hold your breath. And then she hears Rochelle mumble under her breath, she probably doesn't have any powers anyway. Like, they were just, and then I love where Sarah shows them, and they had no words because Sarah didn't fuck it up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But also in that moment, I find it very funny that, like, Sarah, like, looks at them, and then it's this whole, like, the weather changes and the clouds come. And, like, in my head, I'm like, what is this, like, 10 minutes of her just, like, looking and, like, pulling all of this weather and then just being like, lightning, as they're walking away? Like, how long did that take? That was just something amusing to me.
But in fairness, if it was, like, an afternoon in Florida, we could probably do the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be like, look up and go, okay. And then pretend we're in, like, the main character in 1996, The Craft.
Oh, so funny. Oh, my gosh. It's so funny. Yeah, so then that's the end of it. It ends with Nancy, like, kind of being like, I can fly, and that's sad. I'm looking through my articles just to see if there's anything, like, very specific that I want to point out. I don't think so. Fairuza became a practicing Wiccan during filming, and she bought the shop that they used for research.
That's so cool.
Yeah, isn't that? I thought that was pretty cool. I talked about having articles, and so one of the articles that I found was actually really nice. Is a Vulture article, and as we said, we'll link this, but I just wanted to read, like, a little excerpt. It says, still, the film remains memorable for moments like the ones where the young girls perform their beachside ritual during the thunderstorm, the camera spinning in dizzying circles, their arms outstretched. It isn't merely supernatural prowess they're reaching their arms towards. These girls, each in their own way, is calling out for something women learn early and often is hard to attain, the power to control your own life. And for a brief, glimmering moment, the craft depicts the wonder and joy that comes with such autonomy, that which isn't only possible, but worth the risk.
Oh, I like that.
Isn't
Vulture
that good?
Is very, like, they are hard to get, positive things from.
Yeah, like, I thought that was really good. The whole Vulture article is really quotable and very positive about the movie. So I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, female rage, female empowerment, like, women just trying to like make their life better and just like improve their situation. But then having it come back and bite them times 3, is a weird morality lesson. And I think kind of runs parallel with the women losing their power trope.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and part of me thinks, though, but it's... Women, see, I think there's also a difference. Yes, I understand the women losing their power trope, even in this movie. However, it's not all women, because Sarah keeps her power. So, like, whereas a lot of the times the heroines and the MCs in the books that we've read, they lose their power, even with making good choices. I feel like Sarah made good choices and she got to keep them. The women who lost their power, it was kind of like and yes, the whole, like, coming back times 3, but I think it's also like it's a huge be careful what you wish for, because these powers that be that you are being given this opportunity do not come lightly, and it should be making you think how you handle the energy that's being given to you.
Do you think that Sarah losing her friends and going through this whole thing was just her spell rebounding on her times 3? Like losing the love of her friends because she gained so much love from Chris?
I didn't think of that. I didn't think the end of her friendship with the girls had anything to do with Chris. But now that you're saying it, you have Chris is 1, and then you have the females that are 3, and she loses 1, 2, 3 there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, just something that I thought of when I was watching this. I was like, well, nothing ever happened to Sarah. Like, she made her wishes too.
Yeah,
and it went bad. And, like, you can say that, like, what happened to her could be her rebound times 3. But physically, like, mentally something happened in that situation. But, like, physically she was okay. Like, obviously
right.
Not mentally. So physically. So, like, that doesn't really, like, count really times 3. So, like, if the friendship, losing the friendship love part of that was her spell rebounding times 3, it would make a little sense. These are just my thoughts.
Now, okay, then my other question, maybe it's just because the movie was only like an hour and a half, which I wish more movies would be an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's nice.
But it was the 90s. So is every spell that was made, does it always come back times 3? Because that was what I thought.
I think so, yeah.
So it was, okay, so that is very much like Serpent and Dove. Mm-hmm. I think that's where my confusion was, because initially I go, how come every spell rebounded except hers? That was where...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting thing to think about. And that's why I love us, and that's why I love this podcast, because we can, like, do just like a little bit of research and then like watch a movie and like talk about it and get like these like and run with it and get like these kind of like deep kind of conversations out of it. And I love it. I love us. It's really fantastic.
Love us.
I want this to be my aesthetic so bad, but I don't have the balls to pull it off, and I hate that about myself.
No, there's nothing you should hate about yourself. But I will say in regards to Fairuza Balk in this, and I haven't watched the new Craft Legacy, which isn't a reboot, it's an extension, more or less. Yes, it's a new, younger generation of high schoolers, but Fairuza Balk, I was on IMDb, she's in that one too.
Huh.
Yeah, so now I'm like curious to know what her role is, or if it was more like a cameo brief.
It might have been. Maybe they like went to her for advice or something.
Right. Yeah. Like maybe she's now the shop owner. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool. So Jess is going to be visiting me, which will be like really fantastic. So I mentioned Empire Records and the wig situation. And Empire Records we have talked about before, and you have never seen it. It's one of my favorite movies. I feel like Empire Records is a really good like recovery movie for when you and I are just like hanging out.
And that type of recovery.
Yeah. No, just like we're just like sitting on the couch, like not wanting to do anything. Just like, I feel like that's a really great movie. And it's a nice 90s movie. It like kind of keeps with our vibe. And maybe we can do something with it. I don't know. Listeners, tell us, what should we do with Empire Records?
We're definitely going to be watching Practical Magic.
Yeah, definitely.
Laura has like the best little witch house. I'm so excited. So who knows what will come from that too? But we're so excited. I haven't seen her in forever.
Yeah, we'll do something. We'll do something.
And we're gonna go live. We're gonna be going live.
We'll go live. But that's all I have for The Craft. Like really fantastic, vibey, spooky season movie with excellent fashion and like a great message that turns into like kind of a weird message, but still a good message. And you know, you got baby Skeet, baby Robin, baby Nev, and it's, you know, I love it.
There.
I love it. It's a piece of me. All of my favorite movies like make up a piece of me, and this one definitely is a piece of me. For sure.
I'm glad we got to watch it. I wouldn't have watched it. I think it's one of those movies that you'll see definitely like on the TV channels, and they're just kind of, you have in the background, but to pay attention to it is just all these years later. I'm not as traumatized anymore. So feel free to follow us on Instagram, ACOFAE Podcast. We're also on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. And please feel free to leave us any reviews if you should so choose. Everything's appreciated. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Bye.